Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Friday broadcast. My name is Julie. I'm with Book of Hours, and I wanted to talk about a few things that were trending. First, let me make sure that the live stream is coming through loud and clear. Looks like it is. Uh, and I want to thank you guys for joining. You do? Okay, thanks, JP. Yeah, I want to thank you guys for joining today. Hopefully, everybody can hear me loud and clear. Microphone's on. A little out of practice here sometimes, but so let's just get right into it. I'll be sharing some screens as well. So thank you for joining me today on this Friday broadcast. Today's topics are as follows: the network state, the AGI Yale Paper, Trump introducing legislation to diminish the state's AI protection laws, and that's individual states, and then Trump's recent statement that 6G can see through walls. So let's begin. Let me go ahead and share the screen, and hopefully you guys can see the latest regarding the network state. I'm just looking for it. I do believe it's this one. Yeah, that looks like the right one, doesn't it? All right, so there was a network conference in Singapore. There have been, this is the third annual one. The Network State Conference of 2025 took place in Singapore. And then there was one in 2024 and one in 2023. So let's get right into it and talk about what the network state is. Let me scroll up a little bit so that this video doesn't mess up my feed, and we'll just go here so you can see that. Let me get to my notes here. Okay, so I really wanted to just do a brief uh, a brief overview. This is just some basic notes that I've been taking pretty much all year. So, what is a network state? A network state or a cyber state is a concept for a new type of society built online, starting with a digital community and then growing through crowd-funded physical territories or nodes to achieve diplomatic recognition as a sovereign entity, blending online coordination with offline physical presence, often using crypto for its internal economy and governance. It's essentially a startup society, leveraging internet tools to create a parallel opt in nation that's geographically distributed but digitally united, challenging traditional nation state models built exclusively for millionaires and billionaires. So, the key characteristics that you'll find in a network state is that it starts as a dedicated online community with shared values and culture. And you see that in social media. So, social media is the framework for which they're going to sort of bring about in a natural progression, in a natural evolution, a network state. Cryptocurrency and the economy. So use integrated digital currency for transactions, treasury, and funding, and then organizes physical co-living spaces like apartments and towns, crowd-funded by its members. And it also connects these scattered physical locations into a global archipelago. Archipelago. I think that's how you pronounce it. Archipelago. So conducts an on-chain census to prove archipelago. Sorry, I'm reading it. I can say it archipelago, but when I read it, I want to say it differently. So archipelago, and then conducts an on-chain census to prove population, income, and real estate, aiming for a significant size like 1 to 10 million people. It's governed by smart contracts, offering a consensual limited government model. And the goal is to gain diplomatic recognition as a legitimate modern form of sovereignty, distinct from traditional countries. The core idea is that the idea was popularized by Balaji Srinivasan and suggests that as trust in existing institutions declines, technologies then will build up voluntary, highly efficient, internet native societies that eventually gain real world power and recognition, functioning like a state, but organized through networks. So Srinivasan is the former Coinbase chief technology officer and is quoted as saying that a network state is the ultimate exit and by tech industry elites from the failing United States. I think it's fair to say that in 2025, we have a movement, he said. So here's why it's bad and why concerns are arising from the potentiality of a network state. Fragmentation of society, conflict with existing nations, creation of ideological echo chambers, challenges to traditional governance, and the risks of digital era cyberbullying, manipulation, while sort of in IT, it means sort of a tech failure, like a malformed packet or configuration errors or data loss due to unreliable connections or a lack of backups, making systems unusable. Again, my notes are just, it's just like a long list of talking points that I've just sort of highlighted. The criticisms and the risks of a political network state concept is that it weakens existing states. Critics worry that it'll siphon resources and loyalty, undermining traditional nation states and their ability to provide services. The ideological silos are challenging and a little off-putting, while proponents see choice. Critics fear that they'll become digital echo chambers, exacerbating polarization rather than fostering real-world compromise. Regulatory and legal battles, they challenge existing laws, creating conflict with powerful nations and potentially leading to intense regulation or suppression. It also exacerbates cyber issues. The same tech enabling them, like social media, also enables new forms of harm, like widespread cyberbullying and manipulation, impacting members' well being. And so, what makes it bad, sort of technically? Connection failures. Networking can lead to a broken link or an overloaded route, preventing data flow, like a TCP error. Security vulnerabilities, malformed packets, or unexpected protocol usage, signal security issues, making traffic untrustworthy, data loss, poor network design, or insufficient backups can lead to critical data disappearing. In essence, a network state can mean either a problematic political or social development or a malfunctioning technological system, depending on your context. So I would say that all you would have to do is go to your browser and type in network state, and you will get a ton of hits. You'll get there's, I think, a futurism article that just came out a couple days ago. It didn't really go as deep as it should have. There's a couple of people on YouTube that are really bringing the concept of the network state to light and the dangers of a network state. This is really just, the tech bros taking over and building their own autonomous systems and living spaces that will siphon off what regular people need in order to live. Those of us who are not part of this elaborate system. The next topic at hand is called the AGI Yale Paper. And that AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. So it's a little bit beyond just AI, which is artificial intelligence. So one thing that I found really interesting, let me see if I can find that paper. Um, okay, this comes from Yale University. It's a white paper. Uh, Let me get back to my screen and share that with you. And I'll give you some of the talking points that um, I found were helpful in this Yale paper. Let me make sure I get the right one here. There's a couple of white papers that I'll be referencing, and this is one of them. Let's make sure this is the right one. Yeah. So there we go. Um, we won't be missed. Work and growth in the AGI world. Okay, so this is, again, this is a Yale paper that was written, as you can see, on December 22nd, 2020, or October 22nd, 2025, sorry. Okay, so let me just kind of go over it with you a little bit. So the AGI Yale paper from October of 2025, Artificial General Intelligence. So a Yale economist just published a paper that every knowledge worker should take note of. Here are 12 talking points. It's not about AI taking your job. It's about AI making your job economically worthless while the economy booms. Second point, the paper, We Won't Be Missed, starts with two simple premises. AGI arrives, which is basically AI can do any economically valuable task. And then the second is that compute becomes abundant, so it keeps getting cheaper. So from just these two assumptions, the whole economic order collapses. The third point, here's the key insight that most people miss. The paper divides all work into two categories: bottleneck work, which is essential for growth, like energy, logistics, and R&D, and then accessory work, like nice to have, like arts, hospitality, or therapy. This distinction changes everything. Fourth point, Proposition 1 proves something shocking, that AGI will automate all bottleneck work, not because humans are bad at it, but because sustained growth actually requires it. The economy literally cannot afford to have critical functions limited by fixed human labor supply. Fifth point. Um, so see what happens to economic output in Proposition 2 and 3. The output becomes a linear function of compute. So the growth rate equals compute growth rate. The entire economy's expansion is now tied to one thing: how fast we can scale computational resources. Human labor? It's irrelevant. Sixth point. But surely humans will still get paid for the work we do. No. Proposition 4 is more brutal than the first three. Your wage converges to the cost of the compute needed to replicate your work. It's not your skill anymore, and it's not your experience. It's just how much would the AI version cost? Which brings you to the second point. So think about that for a second. As compute gets exponentially cheaper, the ceiling on your wage falls. A surgeon's salary isn't set by years of training anymore or all of his credentials. It's set by, what does it cost to run the AI that can do the same surgery? So replicable equals cheap labor. It's an offshoring concept, but your brain is the shore of another country. So the eighth point is that this leads to the paper's most devastating conclusion, which is Proposition 5. Labor's share of the GDP converges to zero, not because we are unemployed, but because wages are capped while GDP growth grows infinitely with compute. We become economically invisible. And number 9, so who gets all the money? Well, the owners of the compute. All wealth flows to whoever controls the computational resources. It's like the transition from feudalism, which where land equals wealth, to capitalism, where capital equals wealth. Except now, computational resources, or the compute, equals wealth. 10th point. The paper extends this to science itself. Proposition 9 through 11. AGI can automate scientific discovery. So this creates compound growth, which is faster than before, but not a singularity. Growth is still limited by how fast we can scale compute. So progress, but it's not infinite. Infinite. It's not infinite. Okay, number 11. Sorry, the cat's meowing and she's distracting me. Number 11, the title, We Won't Be Missed, isn't about job loss. It's about economic irrelevance. So the paper proves that if tomorrow half the population stopped working, no one would notice. Growth continues and living standards rise. It's just without us really mattering in this factor. Like we don't matter in this factor, right? Number 12, this isn't science fiction speculation. It's a formal economic modeling with propositions and proofs. So the questions it raises is how do we distribute wealth in a zero labor share economy? What is work for, if not economic value? Who should own the computational resources or the compute? And so we need these answers fast because they're really threatening AGI more than they're threatening AI. So that's something that you guys should look into, AGI, computational wealth, and also maybe check out the Yale paper that you're seeing here on the screen. Okay. The next topic in this really quick broadcast that I want to bring up is something about the recent conversation that Trump had in his press conference where he wanted to introduce legislation to withhold state funding if states do strengthen their AI laws. So let's take a look at that headline. Let me see, I just got to find it. Trump signs an executive order blocking states from enforcing their own regulations around AI. That is correct. Just give me 1 second to find it. Is it? Yeah. Okay. There's the headline. So let's break it down a little bit. Let me look at my notes here. So Trump introducing legislation to withhold state funding if states strengthen their AI laws. So Trump's proposal for a federal AI rule could unify today's patchwork of state regulations under one nationwide standard. That might bring more consistency and accelerate innovation, but it could also dilute some of the strongest protections already established in states like California. Here's the reality. A federal AI framework isn't inherently good or bad. Its impact depends entirely on the strength of the standards it sets. So, a strong federal rule could elevate protections across the country with tougher transparency requirements, rigorous safety testing, and meaningful accountability. I've talked at length about how the elements that it takes to make AI a thing and make it powerful and make it grow are sources from the earth that once those like lithium, for instance, once these elements of the earth are brought into sort of battery centers, there's been known ecological damage and lots of harm done to humans and the surrounding uh, wildlife population. So will there be tougher requirements and rigorous safety testing and meaningful accountability if if all state protections have been removed and replaced with federal protections? I kind of doubt it. So a weak rule, which brings me to the point of a weak rule. So a weak rule could override stricter state laws and replace them with looser innovation first policies that weaken consumer rights, reduce privacy safeguards, and increase the risk of bias or harmful automated decisions. So we're at a turning point. Will the United States prioritize speed or safety, innovation or accountability? Or is this the moment that we finally strike the balance that Americans deserve? So this conversation matters. It needs to happen clearly and loudly and with full awareness of what's at stake. Federal AI regulation will affect every one of us, and if it offsets really strong protections against AI like they have in California, it could actually really be harmful. So the real question is, will it protect us as powerfully as it advances innovation? I noticed that Trump threw in there in his press conference, well, if China can do it, we can. So, obviously we're in the race with China for this. Okay, so he made in that same press conference, Trump made a statement that scientists can now use Wi-Fi to see through people's walls. So this is a dual commentary on this. Let me go ahead and bring up the one of the headlines. This is trending all over the media, and I'll just bring up the headline that I thought was the funniest. Um, let's see if I can find it. Uh, sorry about the cat in the background. She's quite noisy today. So here it is. Here's the headline: Grandpa Trump struggles. Uh, sorry, I think it's really funny. Um, Grandpa Trump, age 79, struggles to get his head around 6G. This is really funny. Okay. So what this headline is doing is it's bringing up what Trump talked about in his recent press conference, and I'll break it down for you. So, at his most recent press conference, Trump made a statement about advances in 6G having the ability to see through walls. So, here's an example of the media's response to that. So, what you're looking at is something similar to that, to what happened in like 2020, 2021, when Trump came out and said, hey, go out and get some sunshine and take some vitamin C, and maybe it'll help you feel better. Um, and the media twisted that, or somehow twisted that statement into everybody should drink bleach. So this, what it does is Trump, he understands the media. He's a master at either manipulating the media or using the media to sort of play both sides or play a game. So what the media does is they sort of turn his talking points on their head, and they discredit him, thereby discrediting his followers, who then become accused of being bleach drinking MAGA heads instead of what he had originally said, which was everybody can agree that being in sunshine and taking vitamin C is probably good for you. But he allows his followers to be undermined by the media when he comes out and makes these talking points. And so this is another one of those examples of how he's doing this. So I wanted to show you the headline, and then I want to show you something else. So again, this is similar to when Trump mentioned that vitamin C and sunlight were beneficial for human health, and the media twisted that sentiment into Trump saying that we should all drink bleach. So Trump uses legitimate talking points, knowing the media will discredit them. And by association, all of his supporters will also be discredited. So in the case of this particular talking point, let's take a look at another white paper. And let me see if I can find it. I believe. I hope it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So this white paper is related to the 6G being able to see through walls, or Wi-Fi being able to see through walls, which is a comment he made to the press either yesterday or the day before. So in the case of this particular talking point, let's take a look at this December 31st, 2022 white paper, from that fringy, discredited college that's in Pittsburgh that peddles conspiracy theories. That one. It's called Carnegie Mellon University. Look, I'm being sarcastic, since I know sarcasm is pretty much a lost art in the age of the internet. But researchers at Carnegie Mellon University can map human bodies through walls using Wi-Fi signals. The technology tracks key points on the body for detection, extending previous research into using Wi-Fi signals to locate humans. The study's authors position the breakthrough as helpful to privacy, even if it opens the possibility for much easier, cheaper human tracking. You don't need Wi-Fi signals to see that that's a bit sketchy. So it's the researchers are quoted as saying, "We developed a deep neural network that maps the phase and amplitude of Wi-Fi signals to UV coordinates within 24 human regions. The results of the study reveal that our model can estimate the dense pose of multiple subjects with comparable performance to image-based approaches by utilizing Wi-Fi signals as the only input." What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through the paper so you can see what they're talking about here and see some of the images. This is all really technical stuff, but look at the images that they've captured. Look at that. These are people that are inside buildings and inside their homes, right? And they've captured their, their image. Let's see if I can get a better image here. Okay, this is all really technical stuff, and so I don't want to bore you, but Trump's statement had a granule of truth to it, a grain of truth to it. And yet it's being lifted up as a conspiracy theory by the media, who are completely ignoring this December 31st, 2022 white paper that the scientists at Carnegie Lab uncovered, which is that you can see bodies through walls using Wi-Fi. Um, Fascinating stuff. This one's a little bit better. This one gives it a little bit, you can see it a little bit clearer. Look at that. All right, so I'll put that here and then go back to my notes. So for instance, the use of LED bulbs are part of the Internet of Bodies and Things into our systems of surveillance and can track for health and personal purchasing options. And for instance, they can pick up audio capabilities or turn on and off at random, and it's totally out of your control. They can track your electricity usage. This becomes even more finite than smart meters, for instance. And that's a talking point that JP really wanted me to drive home with you, is that, we have this conversation around smart meters, but what about our own Wi-Fi signals? And what about this technology that's being used to track us through our walls and surveil us through our walls? Like, we have lost the Fourth Amendment, which is your right to privacy, lost it completely, but not entirely. Obviously, we work from home, so we need a Wi-Fi connection, right? So that has to be done. But we can always turn off our Wi-Fi at night, which we occasionally do, admittedly, not all the time. Sometimes we just forget. You can try to not use LED bulbs if possible. As much as you can. I mean, there are ways that you can still shore up your own Fourth Amendment rights to privacy while you're working around these systems, while you're dealing with these symptoms, or these systems that are coming into play in the 21st century. So I guess that's it for now. Let's see here. I want to stay on camera, but I want to bring myself back up. So let me get rid of this one. Am I back? I'm back. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed that broadcast. I hope you got something out of it. I hope that it's brought some clarity, or, you guys can start having open conversations and open dialogue about some of the things that I brought up. I think that when you're talking about the introduction of artificial intelligence, I think that you should maybe move the conversation into artificial general intelligence, or AGI, because I think it will have more of an economic impact than just throwing up like videos that are made with AI. Big deal. That's not really going to affect your paychecks, right? So people there is an artificial intelligence conversation. You need to incorporate AGI into that conversation if you're concerned about the economic impact that these computational resources will have. These are the people that will benefit from AGI. So you want to make sure either you tap in on that benefit and that you're part of it, either by going and working for a company that will benefit, that way you'll have financial security, or you figure something else out. I don't have the answer. So I'm the last person that has the answer for that. Also, keep in mind that the Wi-Fi systems that are being introduced, the new 6G and things like that, they can see through. They can see through walls. Carnegie Mellon proved it. So they have a lab dedicated to that. They did it. So I think the question is, so what do? Wrap your house in tinfoil? Some people actually do. There are a lot of YouTubers out there that talk openly about how they've wrapped their house in tinfoil. There's a conversation that I recently jumped into. I didn't comment on it. I usually like to read rather than just spew. This makes me different than many people on the internet, although I am doing a lot of talking now. But what I do see is a conversation around lead-based paint. That lead-based paint could actually disrupt the signal somehow, and at least disappear you from being surveilled by the technology through the walls. But lead-based paint was conveniently outlawed because toddlers were eating paint chips, which if you believe that, then you're very naive and you shouldn't even be watching me. I don't believe for 1 minute that toddlers were eating lead paint, and that's why they had to stop an entire industry. I don't believe that for a minute. I think that these kinds of technologies have been around and have been researched in labs, and people have been looking into them since the 1980s in Silicon Valley, at least. So I think that they started early to take away these products because they knew that eventually we would be in the 21st century and it would be a whole new paradigm. So you got to think about that. Some people are even saying, well, can I take regular paint and then mix lead into it? I don't know if that would work. And then some of the other topics that I brought up early on was the network state. This is about how those millionaires and billionaires are creating basically crypto islands. They're starting out on social media. Another reason to get off Facebook, another reason to get off Twitter, another reason to get off Insta, another reason to, minimize your TikTok. TikTok is more about story time, like I mentioned before. It's people giving their personal anecdotes about their personal lives and personal situations. It's less about creating like a tech utopia. Like you see the mechanisms for that being laid out through Facebook and through TikTok, and you see these siloed opinions, which will lead you to that sort of alleged utopian crypto space or tech bro space where everything is autonomous and there's no regulation and no government and all that, which not a fan. So there's that. And then I think those are all the talking points kind of summed up. You can email us anytime you want at info@book-of-hours.com. And hopefully I'll be going live again soon. It's December 12th. The holidays are coming up. There's a lot going on where we live. So pretty much every day or every other day up until Christmas Day, we have events to attend and things to do within our community. So that's always really fun and really good. I hope you guys have something similar going on in your area as well. Okay, I guess that's it. Thanks for tuning in, and you'll be hearing from me again soon. Bye.
You can help us continue our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours, or leave us a one-time donation at paypal.me/bookofhours. Or you can use Cash App. Thank you.